Hey guys, welcome back to IT Classroom. Today we're going to talk about layer 3 switching. So if you checked out my last video, we talked about layer 2 and explained how everything works with MAC addresses. Today we're going to see how layer 3 operates, and the difference between a layer 2 and layer 3 is that a layer 3 switch is able to do routing. So if you recall back to our layer 2 demo, we had to do what's called a router on a stick, where we set up the switch, we set up the VLANs on the switch, but then to do the actual routing to talk between the VLANs, we had to point it to a router. So in this video, we're going to show how a layer 3 switch is different and how we can actually do that itself, and it doesn't need that additional router in order to talk to different VLANs. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get set up here just like we had in our last setup. So we'll do a PC, we'll do a laptop, and we will do a server. Just like before, we're going to put the PC and the server on the same network, and then we're going to put the laptop on a different network. So let's go ahead and configure these real quick. So this first network is going to be 192.168.0 network /24. That will give us a usable range of 1 to 254. And our subnet mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. If you didn't see my IP addressing and subnetting video, go ahead and check that out. I break down how to do this. So if you have any confusions or you're still learning and want more experience, go check those videos out as well. So we're going to put this on the 0 network here. We're going to do the same with the server. We're going to give this the next usable IP address of 0.2, same subnet. And this one we're going to toss on a 1 network. So let's go ahead and do 192.168.1.1. So again, when you're doing IP addresses, the 1 is what's changing here. So these were both, I'll enter them here so we can remember. So we'll say PC1 had an IP address of 192.168.0.1. Server 1 has an IP address of 192.168.0.2. And laptop 0 now has, or laptop 1 has a IP address of 192.168.1.1. So it's this third octet that's changing this to a different network. That's why these can't talk by default. So let's go ahead and throw our switch in here. We'll go down to network devices, and we'll click on switches. For this one, in the first one, we used a 2960, and that was a layer 2 switch. For this one, we are going to bump it up to the, we're going to use the IE 9320. That should be a layer 3 switch. And when you're configuring something in Packet Tracer, the first thing you want to do is you want to take a look at the actual physical device here. If we zoom in, a couple things that we notice are there's no power module and none of these ports are actually open. So to do that, you click on the AC power supply and you drop it in there, and now it has a power supply. And then you actually have to manually turn on these ports. So you can just drag it over, and we'll enable 1, 2, and 3. I'll do the next one just because. Again, if you guys want a video on Cisco Packet Tracer and how it works, or any videos that you think would be useful, just leave in the comments or message me, let me know, and I'm happy to put together whatever video you want. As always, this whole channel is to give back and just help you, the viewers, learn whatever you want to learn. My goal is to show real world examples, so it's not just a whole bunch of concepts that you might read in like an exam book or in school, but you can actually see these things physically, what you'll see in the real world, and you can apply it to it. So just let me know what you want. Okay, now that we have a power module and we have some ports here, let's go ahead and get these connected. So we're going to use a copper straight through for each of these. And we're just going to go in order. So 1.0/1. We'll do 1/0/2, and then 1/0/3. Perfect. So now everything's connected. we have our IPs already configured. So by default, PC1 and server should be able to talk. So let's just see if that's true. About command prompt, we'll just do a ping to our server. We can do simulation mode so you see how the first one works here too, just like I did last time. It still sends out a broadcast because it still doesn't know who anybody is. This time it's actually failing. Let's see if one of these other ones end up going through. And we are getting a response. This is just showing up a little weird, but we do see some replies happening. So let's just let this run again. We're going to take it out of simulation mode here. We're going to do real time. And let's see if we start getting responses. And we can see we get responses as expected. That's because by default, PC1 and PC2, they're on the same network, so they can work. Okay. In order to get these PCs to talk to a laptop on a different network, we're going to have to create VLANs, just like we did inside of our layer 2 switch example. So let's go ahead and get that started. We're going to open up our switch here, and we're going to go to config, or CLI, I apologize. We're going to hit enter. First thing we always do is hit enable. That gets us into any configuration mode. Once we're in here, we're going to go configure terminal. Okay. And now we have to enable IP routing. That's telling the switch that we want it to do routing as well. So IP routing, okay, that should set it. And now we're going to create our VLANs. We're going to do two. We're going to do VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, just like we did in our layer 2 example, so we can keep everything as similar as possible. So we're going to do VLAN 10, and we're going to name it. Name, I forget what we named it in our last one, so we'll just say IT department. And then we're going to exit that. We're going to do VLAN 20. And we'll just call this billing department. Okay. So now we created the VLANs, but we haven't assigned anything to them yet. So what we'll do next is we'll actually start assigning the VLANs IP addresses and telling it how to communicate with each other. So let's go ahead and do that for VLAN 10. We're gonna do interface VLAN 10. It's changed up. We're gonna do IP address. We're gonna assign our IP address 192.168.0.254. Similar to what we did on the router in our layer 2 example. Now we're just assigning it to the switch itself. And we'll give it the same subnet mask. So this is our 0 network. So these are configured for the top 2 servers and our server and PC here. We'll do no shutdown. And we'll exit. And then we're going to do interface VLAN 20 for our laptop down there. And we're going to do something similar, IP address. We're going to give it the last usable IP address on the .1 network, which will be 254. Same subnet. Hit enter. Shut down. Exit. Okay, so now we have both of our interfaces configured with IP addresses. The next thing we have to do is we have to assign the VLAN to the port itself on the switch. So that way the switch knows who's talking to it and who's going to use these VLANs. So let's go ahead and do that. If we hover over Packet Tracer, it can show us. So this one's on gigabit 101. I'm just going to make note of this on the side. Okay, and that's going to be, you can't see this, I'm making note for myself, that's going to be VLAN 10. And then down here, we have gigabit 102. That's going to be VLAN 20. And just because I want this to work for everything, I'll go ahead and configure the server on VLAN 10 as well. So gigabit 103. So let me just make note of that as well. Perfect. Now I have my ports. So let's go back into switch and do the final configuration here, which is going to be interface. We'll start with PC1, which is gigabit Ethernet 10/1. And we're going to say switch mode, or excuse me, switch port mode access. This should look very similar to the demo we did in layer 2 with the router. We'll do switch port access VLAN 10. No shutdown. So now we're telling this port that it should be using VLAN 10. We're going to do the same for the other ports. So we're going to, let's go to the laptop on the 1.1 network and do interface gigabit Ethernet 1/0/2. And we're going to do a very similar command, just with VLAN 20 this time. So switch port mode access, switch port access, and then this time it's going to be VLAN 20. No shutdown. Now we assigned our laptop to VLAN 20, and the last thing to do is our server up top. So let's go ahead and exit and go into that last gigabit Ethernet port. And that one lived on 1/0/3. And we'll do switch mode or switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10 because it lives on the same network as PC1. No shutdown. Exit. Exit. And now let's try to run a ping, and we should be able to talk to our device on the other network. There's one thing I'm going to have to do first. So I purposely left this out because last video I didn't show you guys this part, and I want to make sure that I cover it. So the reason it doesn't know how to gate here is because there's a thing called a gateway, default gateway. So if I go into config, I have my default gateway here set to 0.0.0.0. That's saying if you don't know where to go, which means if it's not on my network, if it's not on my 192.168.0 network, send all the traffic to 0.0.0.0. But it also doesn't know what 0.0.0.0 is because that's not an IP address that lives anywhere in my network. So what we do is we have to send it to that IP address that we assigned on the VLAN. So let's go ahead and do 192.168.0.254 because remember, that's IP address that we actually gave VLAN 10. What we have to do is enter the default gateway. We're going to close this, and we're going to do the same thing on all the other PCs. Technically, this should work. It should be able to find the 1.1 with this, but let's just go ahead and configure this properly. So this is going to use the same IP address as our PC1. And the laptop will use the 1.54 because that's on VLAN 20. Perfect. So now let's run this again, and we should see a response. So I'll go ahead and cancel out of here, do ping 192.168.1.1, and let's see what happens. I'm going to get out of simulation mode just so we can see it in real time. It may take a minute for the routes to learn, and so you might see some timeouts here. That's expected. Usually, especially with Packet Tracer, the first round will see request timeout, but if we run it again, ideally we should start seeing this working. And now we see a response. The routes have been properly learned, and now it's able to talk between the VLANs. And that's it. That's layer 3 switching. If you have any questions or you want me to go over anything again in more depth, or if you want to see what this looks like on a bigger scale, go ahead and leave in the comments below. As always, thank you for your support. I hope this channel is beneficial for you and your learning. Look forward to making more.